Hello again. And the mystery of the engine failure at sea under quite difficult conditions is solved. They sent an organization called Mid-Atlantic Yacht Services sent over a Portuguese mechanic, a technician, the same day that I arrived, immediately. And he began looking at all the things that we would normally would, the two filters going into the diesel filters going into the engine, bleeding the system, to checking the pipes and hoses that were attached to the engine. Then he went to the tank itself, disconnected hoses there, and started blowing and tugging and doing things with those. And that didn't seem to be the problem. He said, you know, there can only be one thing left. And it was something I would never have thought of. So maybe somebody else will benefit from this in the future. And it was this little device here. So here's the engine. Here's one of the fuel filters. And here's the other one down here. Not very easy to get to. And not transparent either. But it was actually, this device here is called a fuel shutoff valve. And it's there, it's a safety device. And in case the engine runs away or you can't shut it off for whatever reason, you turn that valve off and it shuts gas off to the engine. So he said when he took that valve apart, this red valve, it turns like this to turn it off and on. And he took it apart and there was big glumps of black gook in it. It was just block solid. Go figure. So he said, now you have two choices, Patrick. You can just bypass that very easily. Just take the hose from the tank and run it straight to the engine. You don't need that fuel shutoff valve. And he could see I wasn't real comfortable with that solution. It's a safety thing. It's probably a legal requirement under EU rules of some kind or other. And so he said the other thing we can do is put in some filters prior to the fuel shutoff valve. And so this black thing here is the fuel tank, and here's what he put in for me. He just cut and install those. There's an intake and an outtake. There's some duplicity there that, in fact, you can cross them. He said if you ever have a problem, just disconnect that one and connect to this one, and you'll be back in business again, if that's the cause of the problem. So, and the good news for me is that they are transparent, unlike the ones that came with the boat that is solid and I can't see what's going on. So, engine failure at sea, always going to be a dramatic event. This is my first one, but I've always wondered what would I do. When I go into port, I always leave the sails hooked up so that if in the last instance, if the engine failed, I would hoist the sails really quickly and at least try to coast to the side or do something with a bit of grace and style rather than just crashing into a pier or rocks or whatever. So now I learned something else, a place to look that I never would have thought of looking. And of course it makes sense, and if you have the mentality and thoughtfulness of a skilled technician, you know those kind of, you just go down a list of what could it be, and sure enough, that was it. So now, in the famous words of one of our presidents, trust but verify, I am going to start the engine tomorrow and run it for 45 minutes anyway. But I am satisfied that we solved the problem today. And now there's a larger problem, which is contamination in the fuel tank. That every person who owns a boat lives with that. You know, there's water in there from condensation, from different sources, whatever. And then there's these black, organic matter that grows in diesel fuel that thrives there even. So that's a problem that we all have to live with, and there isn't a miracle cure. If you kill it, you've killed it, but it's still there, you know. So somehow or other you have to clean out the tank, and I don't even know any services in France. I've seen advertised in the UK services that will clean your tank for you. I haven't ever seen that in France where I live. So anyway, all's well that ends well. I got here, have a big smile on my face. I have the Azores merit badge in my book now, and I learned a lot. Okay, bye-bye.